Hello, Legionnaires, and welcome to episode 238 of RPG Digest. I am John Max Leo Schlo. Along with me today are Brett, Heathen Dog Grismer, Kevin, Boomgum Simbita, and the Colonel, Jeremy Colantonio. He's not, that's just what we're sticking with that here. He doesn't have to like it. That's just what he's got. And they're here to join us for another episode of Gamer Talk. Now, today, we're going to talk about interesting NPCs. As long as time permits, we'll discuss allies and patrons, antagonists and villains, ephemeral and distant NPCs, local leaders, and the utility NPCs of henchmen, mercenaries, and guides, or whatever else pops up, as you know how these conversations like to go, right? Of course, we are extremely grateful you are here with us today and sincerely thank you for your time and your support of both Palladium Books and Legion of Myth. Please consider supporting Legion of Myth or its charity, the Wounded Warrior Project, through the link in the live stream's description. Or if you're watching after this live stream ends, click the big old donate button next to the video. Rumble rants and super chats of less than $20 will be read at the end of the segment or topic, while those of $20 or more, I'll read as immediately as I can without derailing the conversation or talk. If you are feeling extra generous, if we're extra special today, and you want to give a super chat or Rumble rant of $100 or more, I will take a drink in your name, and you can force us to answer any tabletop RPG gaming-related question of your choice right then and there. Sincerely thank you for your time and your donation. So to give a little something back to those of you who do support us, if we reach $100, there's a lot of stuff to say here, by the way. Super chats or Rumble rants, there will be a $50 Palladium Books giveaway towards the end of the live stream. Hunger Games, baby, Hunger Games. And lastly, a special shout out to our new viewers. I hope you enjoy this live stream, share it with your friends, and come back to join us again. Now, I suppose I could have done all that without that on the screen there, but at least now I know when the intro ends. So with all of that out of the way, what is good today, gentlemen?
How's it going?
Everything's good.
Yeah,
You have to sing it. What? Everything is awesome.
Right.
Poly Robotics, thank you very much, $20. And Jeremy, show cover and overview of your new RPG for Palladium Books.
Nice. So I'm not actually developing any RPG stuff for Palladium. My job is to make sure Kevin and Sean can work on the books, and I take care of all of the other things that I can possibly juggle to keep that out of their way. So I get the gears going and keep them moving for these guys, and handle a lot of stuff on the back end.
What you don't know is before we went live and he put his clothes on, he had a dominatrix outfit with a whip ready to crack it in case somebody got out of line.
Wow.
You look like that guy from Farscape.
Yep, that's in there.
I always try to do something to make sure they regret coming here every month.
Yeah, that'll do it.
You're very good at it.
I run a D&D game on Friday nights with my friends, and they keep a tally of how often they break me during the game. As you've already started on like number one, that would have been like, all right, we've begun on the right tab here. One break down.
Well, yeah. I want you to feel comfortable like you're around friends, because maybe we are. Maybe we are friends.
Safe word is applesauce.
Pineapple. I'm allergic to pineapples. The safe word's always pineapple for me.
Oh, pineapples. Okay.
All right. Well, before we get started, Kevin and Jeremy, do we want to quickly talk about the Palladium sale that you guys have going on before we jump into our real topic here?
Yeah,
then,
sure.
Show all the people the awesome stuff. Let me get this loaded up over here. Where's the present? Oop. And share screen. Nope. Where's the screen? There's the screen. Share. All right, there we go. The new Palladium Books website. Check it out. Celebrating 35 years. Nice layout there. But we want to see the sales. Look at all that. I'm just going to keep scrolling while they talk.
Yeah, so it's Rift's 35th anniversary. You know, Palladium's been around for 44 years. It's hard for me to believe that, but it has. And to celebrate Palladium's 35th anniversary, we thought we would put 80 plus books, virtually all of the source books, world books, core rules, Rift's RPG. They're all on sale, 20% off. And, you know, get them while you can, because several titles have already temporarily sold out. They're at the printer to get reprinted, but there's a handful already that have sold out. So if there's something you really want, you know, check it out, snap it up. And, you know, and I should mention, well, our website, new website looks freaking amazing. Thank you, Rex Barkdahl. we're still hammering out bugs. So we've had issues where it's slow at times, and we thought we had resolved that by Wednesday or Thursday, but this morning it's slow. It's taking a long time to load and to move. So be patient with us. We're working on it. We're trying to get everything done and hammered out. So
those who watched last week's live stream, and we talked about the Techno Wizard and in the Rifter number 21, and you got quirks and prototyping. Well, guess what? I think we're seeing it live right now. So all the people who wanted to naysay me and say, "Oh, prototyping, no, that ruins the game. That ruins." We're prototyping it. Look at that. But I think it looks great, like you're saying.
thanks.
I have one little really, really hyper pedantic quibble.
What's that?
Instead of a hyphen here, because it took me a while to realize what this was. I'm like, between $18 and $100. What are we talking about here? I think it's PDF versus physical, right?
So
Is that
it depends. So
Oh,
in some
is it- okay.
cases, you might have a soft cover or a hard cover and the PDF.
Okay.
So this is the larger group, and it's showing the lowest and the largest price of the group.
Okay, I got it. Okay, I thought it was either PDF versus physical or soft versus hard, and I was going to say pipe usually works better in that case. But if there really is a range, then I stand corrected, and there we go. Fine.
Yeah, and for those of you
Cool.
coming to the site and finding things where like maybe you have a suggestion or something's not working for you, go to our help desk and please submit help desk to us. So that way
Yes.
we can see your comments and your concerns. That's been one of the best things for us to track down bugs over the last week in doing
one.
that.
This is from Beat Magnet. I bought 6 books off the new website the other day. Great site. Might want to let them know it doesn't take the taxes out on sales.
Yeah, I was
So
going to bring that
that's
up. There's
actually
a couple
accurate.
people saying that.
Yeah, that's something to look
Yeah,
into.
no, because everyone's used to being taxed on everything under the sun. So we've been digging into that for like several weeks now. Our payment processor automatically calculates taxes. And if you're if you're in Michigan, where we are buying from us, you'll get taxed because we are physically in Michigan. Outside of that, it's part of this thing called a tax nexus. And until we reach a certain threshold, we don't actually have to pay sales tax.
Oh, nice.
So we don't tax our customers with that.
I mean, nice for everyone but me.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
That's
bummer.
That's interesting. Okay, I've never seen that before. I have never even heard of that, but that is pretty awesome. Another way that Palladium gives back to you, or at least just doesn't take from you.
Right.
We try.
We try to take. I mean, no, we try to give.
No, we tried. That's it. I'm leaving.
But also, look at all those. I scrolled there. He talked about them. Ton of books on sale. So check those out. Now, just as a follow up, does the old store still work?
Yes. Or is
Okay.
that true, Jeremy? It was.
Because I still have
old
access to
store
it,
is
so I'm
still-
hoping it does. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we're definitely doing more of a transition, not a hard cut. Hard cutting would be bad, especially anytime you're doing a new site. You don't ever want to just completely hard cuff the
So am
whole
I
thing
out of
over.
line saying, hey, if you are struggling with the new site for now because it's slow or whatever, it's okay to go to the old site and purchase?
No, that's not out of line at
Absolutely.
all. That's
Okay.
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yep.
So, because I can tell you this one is where, at least for me, let's just find out right now. Look at that. That's loading right up. So,
Yep.
all right. So there you go. If you guys haven't had a chance to check that out, I really do. Like I said, like that new website. Good job there. Hopefully those little bugs, as always happens when you work in IT, anybody who works in IT knows that these things always crop up. Just can't get away from that nonsense.
No, it's very frustrating. It reminds me when I was a kid, my uncle always worked on cars, and it was always like, this is an easy job, 20 minutes. And it's like 3 days later, it's like it's one thing after another, and it's never easy. But yeah, no, the website looks great. It's got a lot of cool extra features too. You can now buy PDFs direct from us. You can buy the book and a PDF, or that book and a different PDF. There's some bundle offers.
those
I
quick
think-
start bundles are amazing.
Oh, good. I'm glad you like those.
A lot of companies, a lot of companies actually do a quick start with just like half the rules or whatever. You guys went a different way with this, but I was looking at what's in those bundles. with one weird exception, and it could just be me. I thought that the books that you put in there were perfect to get people started. I think there was like one missing from the After the Bomb one. I forget what it is. And I was like, wait a second, that's like every book except for one. And I forgot which one it was. Like, what was the decision on that one? I don't remember. Like I said, it's just one of those little silly things that doesn't matter. But no, the bundles include multiple books. They get you started. They get you ready to not just play the game, but to have a little campaign world. Get some more tidbits about the setting. You can't go wrong with them. And they tell me, did you reduce the price of those things a little bit? Because it seemed like you did.
On the bundles, yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost like getting a Christmas surprise package without getting a Christmas surprise package.
Almost in some ways, yeah.
Okay. So look at that. All the stuff that Palladium's doing for you. I like that.
We're trying to make it great. We're trying to make people have fun. We're trying to get everything out there. You know, it's we're trying to do all kinds of cool things for our fans, and keep watching. We got other stuff coming. So
sweet. All right. Well, let's read this last Polyrobotics here. Says Palladium Books website is created by technomages. We got all the problems of mixing technology and magic. There you go. Magic of Palladium Books tries to integrate with technology. The problem is apparently they don't live on a ley line.
Yeah, that's true.
All right.
All right. So we are now going to start talking. By the way, thank you for all the super chats that have come in. Really do appreciate that. So today our topic is going to be about, I couldn't think of a good word for this. I don't just want it to be interesting NPCs. I would just want it to be all about NPCs, the good, the bad, the ugly, how to do them well, how to screw them up completely, how to make them boring, how to make them great. So, but I'm going to go with the word interesting because I can't think of a better one. But before we get started with that, Kevin, and Jeremy, feel free to jump in on this as well. What is your number one complaint about how some game masters implement or run NPCs? What is the most egregious thing that they do that makes you just shake your head?
You want to go, Jeremy? Seem like you have
Sure.
a response right away.
Not having a name.
Boy, he hates
Like,
me.
I see
Oh
so
my
many
God.
storytellers where they'll introduce NPCs and they just don't have a name for them. They want to just brush by the moment and whatnot. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I get that, but like, just throw something out there. Like, his name's Greg. Like, it doesn't have to be special, right? But I see so many GMs just like completely hang up, and suddenly we're spending 10 to 15 minutes while they try to come up with a name for this character, and they're more hung up on the moment than the party is. You should
That
feel
is
attacked.
his problem. That is his problem to a T.
All the important NPCs have names, but these dum-dums like, what's the name of the banker? Oh, no, you're just supposed to go sell stuff.
Banker number 7.
Yeah, right? Yeah, teller 3.
Teller 3.
Teller 3.
Well, my answer to that is just grab anything. I've had Bobs and Sids and Freds. You know, it's like
Janice and Jeanette.
grab a name.
I have a couple of books up there that I have with me, like religiously in my books. That's just rolling names. Okay, this guy's name is Alfred. To be fair, this is that again. Maybe I'm autistic and don't know it, but I don't like names like Bill and Bob and Ted in my RPGs. Like, at least not my fantasy ones. So I want something a little more fantasy sounding, like an Athelstan or something like that. So and I seriously will, and it's funny because he's right, and you called me out and. We didn't set them up for this, by the way. I wasn't expecting this. I will seriously freeze. I will be like, ah.
No, but just use anything. Grunt. This is Grunt the banker. It's just, especially if
they're like a half orc.
A character that they're only going to meet for 2 minutes in this game and never meet again. There's nothing wrong with Bob or Fred.
Yeah, see, my players.
Wyndham Price.
I give names for everything to throw my players off, also because they know they hook on, like, if I'm naming them someone, then maybe they're important, and so like the next time they go to like the bank or the weapon shop or the general store, they'll greet that NPC by the name, like, "Hey Bob, how's it going today?" And they're waiting for that person to turn out to be a villain, a spy, somebody, anything. But if everyone has names, like, it disarms them, and it's perfect when I finally do unleash that.
That's true too. That's good. That's a good point. But I've done that too, where it's like, so what's his name or her name, and it's like, and like I said, I'll just grab, Bob. He's Bob. The Wolfen Bob. Uh-huh. The Cyber Knight Mitch. Yeah, sure.
Mitch.
Why not? Sir Mitch to you. It make it work. So yeah, it's and I'm with you though. Sometimes you want it to sound cooler, but sometimes there's just nothing there. You just blank. And in the middle of the game,
It's
you don't
funny
wanna
because
say,
I
"Hold
consider
on."
myself a good DM, but you just called me out, and now I'm sitting here like all my gears are like, we make it a meme here sometimes. We joke about how bad I am about this, and now Jeremy just basically came out and said, "You suck," and today's episode is all about you.
It doesn't make you a bad GM. It just shows an area where you need a little bit of improvement. Every single GM has areas they need improvement in, period. No one's perfect at GMing. They'll never be perfect at GMing.
Well,
And so
that's
definitely don't get
presumptuous.
hung up on that either. Do
You
what?
realize you're in my presence, right?
You've never
With
ran a
that
game with
said-
me, so we'll see.
Poly Robotics for $20 says best NPC name is non-player character. Most used character name in my games. That's like Smith. There you go. In the gaming world, just everybody say, "What's your name?" Non-player character.
There you go.
Oh, so
Like
what
the
is
movie
it?
Guy. Free Guy.
Yes.
Uh,
But for me, the most egregious thing that I see people doing of NPCs, and I do mean egregious, is the NPC is the hero who leads the way, and all the players are like his sidekick or secondary characters in this story about Bob, the NPC. And it should never be that. For me, the NPC should be something that helps move the story along, that maybe nudges the characters, the player characters, the players, I should say, and their characters, not be the central thing. To me, as the game master, it's your job to have the players have a great time, and they are the leads. They are the heroes. Your NPC should just be one of the characters in the background. And if you need to give them a nudge or a clue or get them moving, you do that, and then you have the NPCs step back and let them take the lead.
I've actually messed with a group with the opposite of that. It started off exactly what you were saying, like Prince Reginald, I forget his full name, but Prince Reginald, he was going to be the key figure in the region. He was going to bring warring nations together. Everyone respected him. He is the most important person on the planet. You PCs can suck it. You're just a couple of chumps compared to this guy. Women love him. Men want to be him. Countries, and then the very first play session, he goes to make a speech and he gets assassinated.
That's a good one. I like that one, or turning him into the big bad evil guy.
The player character's job to try and do everything he was going to do very easily. Only now it's going to be all very hard.
Yeah,
Nice.
like turning the heroic, like wonderful, powerful NPC into a grease stain, and then letting the heroes have to pick up the pieces is always. But that's a plot trope, though. You're not. I think usually what Kevin's talking about often is usually a GM PC where the GM gets to be part of the group, and they want to feel part of that. But that's not the GM's job. And as thankless as you can feel for that, you need to really embrace being a GM and understand that they get to be the characters. They're all the main plot of this main characters of the story, but you're the universe. You're everything else. So like embrace that and really enjoy it. But I'll turn like grandstanding NPCs that seem like that. They're usually the bad guy or something's terribly wrong with them, or my players know me really well at this point. They're very suspicious if I bring a character like that into my game.
I like doing the whole me thing with the NPC, me, and it's all the red herring. He's basically all bluster and like no actual power or authority. You just think he has it, and then you basically back the wrong horse.
Yep.
All right. Well, that was a perfect segue into actually what I'm gonna for whatever reason, call segment 1 here, and we're going to talk about major characters, allies, patrons, champions. We're going to start, or patrons. Somebody yelled at me about that. Sorry, I grew up with the word patron, not patron. Whatever. Apparently, people like to comment about everything. Thank you for your comments. So I'm just going to start, and we're going to stay on the good side now. These are the people that are kind of helping the party, or theoretically helping the party, whether they're with the party, could be companions, could be just people that you can come back to maybe fence a good or have that question mark over his head to get the quest or whatever. But those type of folks. And we'll start off with what makes an NPC ally compelling without overshadowing the players. I think that's a perfect segue based on what we were talking about.
Well, there's a lot of different ways you can do that. So obviously every character that's not a player is an NPC, and whether it's Bob the banker, who they just go in and change money with, or Sir Frederick the knight, or Prince Reginald, or whatever. Every character you run into, the barmaid who brings them their drinks, the goblin who comes up and tries to pinch their pocket, the DB who is out of place and looking to find his way, or is a thief, or is a changeling, or some kind of shape changer. That everything you run into is an NPC, and I think you want to give them a little bit of personality. And if it's a character they run into all the time, one of the fun things I think is players will kind of build more into the character than you may even have thought about, which can be a good thing. A great example of that is in my Defiler campaign, when they had rebuilt the town and stuff. And when they would come back from an adventure, there was always this little girl, like this 6 or 7 year old girl. They simply knew her as the flower girl, and she'd be there and it's like, "Oh, you are great heroes. My father says to give you this rose." And they'd be like, "Okay, thanks, little girl." And that's all she really was. And it was just sort of a cool thing I just kind of came up with. And one day I just forget to mention that the girl is there. She's not there to give him a flower. And they're like, and right away, some of the players are like, "Hey, where's the flower girl?" And I'm like, "Oh, she's not there today." And they're like, "Well, why isn't she there?" And it's not like they would have conversations with her. It's not like they played, make-believe tea party with her. She was just always there handing him a flower. And she was just this cute, sweet little girl. And they're like, "Well, where is she? Is she in trouble? Can we find out who her parents are? Can we check her out?" And I'm like, "Holy crap, this is awesome." And of course, the game master, they're challenging me because I have no idea who her parents are or where they are or why she's not there. And the reason she's not there is I forgot to put her there.
But you don't tell them that.
No, of course not.
Of course not.
That's funny because I go a different way with that a lot of times, because my expectation, and just based on experience, is that if I say something, players like, that means something, even if he says it in passing or whether he says it constantly. So something like that for me would be like, "Why isn't she there?" And it's a complete red herring. I will actually go the opposite route. I'll be like, I don't know, but dark clouds have come in and there's a different group of people are here. And that people have been complaining about kidnappings or whatever, just coming up with something and we knew there was something going on because this, and it's like, it's just a complete red herring.
But that's exactly where I went. They track down the parents, they find them, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, we can't believe the great defilers are concerned about our little girl. Yes, we're so upset. She went missing, and not just her, 5 or 6 other children went missing." And one of the major players was a witch hunter. So I threw in, rumors that a witch was in the neighborhood or was spotted. And, so they tracked down the witch, and sure enough, she's got the kids. And it turned into this whole fun side adventure that I had no idea. I'm just winging it, which I love doing anyways. And it was a great adventure. And they felt great when they were done because they saved the little girl who they felt this connection to simply because, every adventure she was there handing him a rose.
That actually reminds me of the social media experiment some guy did. He created like 10 or 20 bots that he would choose social media personalities to every morning the bot would say good morning, and every night it would say good night. And then after a while, he just turned it off. And an embarrassing amount of them were so hurt by this that they actually made videos about how this person just stopped. And how could they do this to me?
Yeah, it's fun. Well, that's where you do see human psychology slip into into these games. But and again, a similar kind of thing, and we might have talked about this once before in one of the early conversations we had. I had an NPC named Fearless. This again, Defilers. So it's Palladium Fantasy. And they ran into this guy, and I just felt they needed someone to help nudge them along, because 26 guys, sometimes there was no strong leader. Everything was done by committee, and sometimes you're just there as the game master going, okay, guys, make a freaking decision, will you?
It's like
There'd be like these big huddles, and it's like, well, we could do this, or we could do that. What do you think of this? And it's like, guys. And so I introduced Fearless as an NPC to help nudge them along in certain situations. So, for example, they're like, I don't know, maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that. Fearless would like just stand up and do something. Like there was a point where some bad guys that they needed to address and get some information and stuff out of, they were trying to figure out how to approach them. And this bad guy is manhandling one of the barmaids. And at some point, the rest of the group is just like, I don't know, should we do something? Should we step in? Do we want this guy? And Fearless just stands up and says, unhand that woman, lout. I am Fearless, the paladin, which, by the way, he wasn't. He was a stoner. And he was sure he was a paladin because he paid 100 gold for this document. He'd pull out this parchment to anyone who questioned.
Oh, he's got his 1 foot of land in Scotland, huh?
Yeah.
And he'd pull out this thing that said that, Fearless so-and-so is, a paladin. And he was clearly not a paladin, but he kind of had the heart of a paladin. It's like he didn't have the stats to be a paladin, but he had the heart of a paladin. And so there were a lot of situations where if the group was kind of indecisive or not about to do something, I would have Fearless take that step that kind of, they're heroes. So if one of their fellow teammates, even an NPC, gets in trouble, they're like, gosh darn it, Fearless, and they would step in and like, sir, we meant no offense. And Fearless would be like, I meant every offense. Unhand that woman, and it's like, oh God, Fearless. And
he just Leroy Jenkins to everybody. Yeah.
And it would be great. And there'd be times where they're trying to decide this or that, and Fearless would simply say, well, I'm going to go do this, whether you guys are with me or not, because it's the right thing to do. And then the rest of the group would be, especially the principled good and scrupulous, were like, oh yeah, this is the right thing to do. So yeah, let's go ahead and do this. And then I don't have Fearless lead the way. I have Fearless step back. And because he gave them the nudge they needed, and now they're on track to do what me as a game master wanted to happen in the story, and leave the rest to them. But the interesting thing with Fearless is I got bored of him after a while. And there was a situation where Fearless ends up getting killed by there was an evil player character amongst the group that they hadn't realized. And he ends up killing Fearless in a way that they can't take his body and take him to the well where the goddess is that could, resurrect him or heal him and send them all on a quest. The bad guy kills him and throws him into this lava pit, and there's no way to bring Fearless back. And personally, as the game master, because I had gotten kind of bored of the character, I'm like, oh, thank goodness. I was trying to figure out ways to kind of have Fearless leave the group anyway. And the whole group went like nuts because it turned out they loved this guy. Because like I said, he had this heart of a paladin. He was always trying to do the right thing, even though he was clumsy and he'd knock things over and be like, we got to be very careful. And he'd knock something over and make noise and that kind of thing. But like I said, I got tired of him. I'm like, oh, good, he's dead. And the group went nuts. He killed Fearless. And the guy, the one player who was there with this other bad guy was like, Kev, and we're still playing a hybrid between Palladium Fantasy and D&D. he had a Vorpal blade, and he had sunglasses. Interestingly enough, I had magic and technology already, even in my fantasy game. He had sunglasses that were teleportation devices, actually. And so he's like, Kev, I teleport behind him and cut off his head with my Vorpal blade. And I'm like, you sure you want to do that? He goes, absolutely. And the other, the player is like, no, wait, we can talk about this. We can talk about it. He's like, he killed Fearless. I teleport behind him and I cut off his head. And the other guy's like, no, wait. And I'm like, he's like, Kevin, I teleport behind him and cut off his head. Rolls a 20.
Of course.
And I'm like,
yep.
Dude, he teleported behind you and cut it. Well, I let him. I said, if you roll a 20, you can dodge it. But he rolled like a 15. It wasn't bad, but there's no way. And he teleported behind him and cut off his head. And the whole 25 other guys are like, or 24 other guys are like, yeah, and they built a statue. It was the first statue of the Defilers that they built for the town. The great hero, Fearless. And it was just amazing to see where it went. But again, you can see I kind of let the players make all the decisions. Fearless was there as sort of a foil, but I let the players decide what's going to happen. And they're the ones who decided to build the statue for Fearless and start creating this whole like park with the heroes. Every time a Defiler perished, there's a new statue. And, that was all them. But I gave them the impetus with this NPC.
Okay,
So for a moment, let's say you were talking to a brand new game master or somebody who's not comfortable yet in the game master shoe or might be a little shy. What tips would you give them for encouraging or getting their players emotionally invested in a recurring NPC?
I think part of it is having just a character that has some character. I think a character that's a team player. I think that's why everyone loved Fearless. There were a couple of times where, Fearless was always there and he, took a bullet, or in this case, an arrow, or a spear for some of the players. He would dive in, because he thought he was a paladin. There's that attachment. If if the guy's a shit, no one's going to care. Oh, he fell down the pit and he's laying there going, help me, I'm alive still. And if he's a jerk and has tried to, double cross the group, they're like, yeah, see ya, Tim. It's like, but if he's, I think, part of the group, feels like part of the group, even in a small way, they're going to feel attached to that character, especially if he's been helpful or kind, supportive, even in little ways. It endears the character to the group. Now, you don't always have to have an endearing character. I have a reoccurring goblin character in my fantasy games, and even in my tournaments, where people have met Pinch enough where whenever he shows up, there's some players who are like, just shoo him away. Don't trust him. Don't talk to him. No, don't let him join the party, because Pinch is just this self-serving little thief. He'll steal everything he can when you're not looking, and he's terrible at it. So like if he steals your change purse, your gold purse, and you catch him because he rolled terrible on his skill roll, he's like, "Oh, sir, I'm sorry. You dropped your coin purse. Here, let me help you. Let me give it back to you. Oh, and you should give me a gold coin because I found your purse. You could have lost everything." And he's just that kind of little scoundrel. And some people really like him, and others just hate that little jerk. And they want nothing to do with him. But it's
he's a goblin, so I'm sure Heathen Dog and I already have another option that hasn't been mentioned yet.
I would say, step one to making a memorable NPC that the party connects to and adores and likes is giving them a name.
But actually, that's true.
I quit. I'm out.
What you get for your opening jab at me, man?
That was pretty good. No, but I'm sad to tell you, you're all wrong.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
All right. The best way to get a party invested in an NPC is to make that NPC a single parent, a single mom, a single dad, have them meet the kid, have the kid be cute. That's all you need. That's it. Done. They are now invested in this barmaid or rope salesman or cobblestone
Cobbler.
guy. I don't know what that's called, but you know what I mean. they are now emotionally invested in this otherwise would be cookie cutter type NPC person, and they will go far and beyond. Kevin knows that little girl who the little flower girl disappeared. They went on a whole quest just because this girl existed. Never ever underestimate the power of a little kid from a broken home. Pulls at the heartstrings every time.
Yep.
Well, I hate to say it, Heathen Dog's absolutely right. There are tropes that you can use, and it's just the way human beings are wired. It's why everyone fell in love with freaking John Wick, who's been an assassin for like his entire life, has killed God knows how many, apparently hundreds of people on a weekend.
They're all bad people.
Yeah.
And
they were all just fun.
And why do we love him? Because he was trying to change his way, because he fell in love with his love of his life, and they killed his dog, the last gift his wife had given him.
Yeah.
And everyone's instantly invested and is rooting for John Wick. That's the whole
franchise
story. Because he goes out to kill everyone who killed his dog.
No, he goes on a murder spree, and we're like, yeah, blood makes the grass grow. You know, but normally pacifistic, people, rabbis and monks and stuff are like, yeah, screw those guys, kill them dead. Yeah.
Did they kill the dog? Oh no, that's death sentence for all of them.
You guys are done. Except all the Koreans are like, what? So
mean.
I hate to say that's a joke my wife would make though too. So I mean, pulling it back a little bit here. What role do NPCs, or let me rephrase, I don't want to ask it that way. I want to ask it, how can you play an NPC well as the game master to teach players about the setting, especially new players to a setting, maybe a game they haven't played before, maybe somebody in say Rifts or whatever, that is like, whoa, there's a lot of stuff here. How can you use an NPC to shape the world around those players without them just being like, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this?
Oh, there are tons of ways. Yeah, go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, so you've got a few ways. You can have the guide mentor NPC, or you can have the challenge obstacle NPC, right? I prefer the challenge obstacle because then the players feel a better sense of accomplishment, but sometimes some people need the guide. It depends. Get a feel for your players during session 0 or whatever, and feel like how comfortable they are with the game. If they feel a little confident, go with the challenge NPC. Somebody who's going to get in their way and they have to overcome the obstacles this NPC puts in their path to get to their goal. And it doesn't have to be a bad guy. It could be a bureaucrat in the city who just doesn't like adventurers. It could be, a thieves guild that's testing the rogue in the group to see if they've got the right metal, right? The come up with the reason in your head, and then that NPC works to actually challenge and get in their way a little bit, not to make them fail, but to make it harder. And then they're doing things, they're making the rolls and doing the challenges.
So there's lots of different ways you can use NPCs, and we've talked about some that have joined the party and some that are kind of in the background. I like to use NPCs to kind of illustrate certain things, and by this I mean these are characters they're never going to probably encounter again, but they're walking down a road and they see these guys in black armor show up. They look kind of skeletal. They start shaking down no name merchant number 3, or they grab this people and they start pulling back the hoods, and one's a DB and they start to run, and die DB scum, and they atomize them. That kind of lets you know what's going on in this environment and who might be considered a good guy or a bad guy, or that there's.
Well, now you're Heathen Dog. How do you turn them into good guys?
DBs?
Who, the Coalition?
Wow. Yeah. That's hard. That
Yes, the
turning people into good guys.
coalition, not the DB.
Oh no,
Ethan
it's
Dog, the-
easy to. You're not turning the coalition into good guys. They already are. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, and again, that's where you have. So maybe your group is just standing there going, "Should we do something? I don't know." And then they march away, and you realize, although they're some kind of authority figures, and that's where you have other NPCs come up and say, "Oh, you've got a grackle tooth in your group. You can't let them see you. Come here, we'll hide you." And then they talk about the coalition and how they're, they hate magic and they hate non-humans and this and that. And then maybe later you run into an NPC that talks about how, oh no, the coalition are heroes, man. We would be in a horrible situation if it wasn't for them protecting us. And gosh, yeah. And again, maybe you show certain biases or prejudices. If they're like, yeah, magic, users are just terrible. Of course you want to kill them on sight. And, I had those, Devilman DBs come in and, they raped my sister. And so, yeah, they should all die, and the coalition came in and they hunted that guy down. And
oh, looks like Kevin froze.
Yeah, he froze up. But yeah, no, he's
Actually,
good.
did Jeremy freeze too?
It looks like.
I can
but
hear
you guys are all spinning in my.
See, we saw you guys freeze.
Yeah, you're frozen.
That is weird because Heathen Dog, like, I don't know where Jeremy is. I'm
No,
guessing
everyone
Michigan
of us.
also. Like, Heathen Dog's in Michigan and he didn't freeze.
No. Can shifters be turned into good guys? Yes. Yes, they can. A bullet.
Applesauce is not
Well, they
good
can
guys.
start off as good guys.
Yes.
No. They start off evil because they're shifters. Come on, man. Get with the program.
No, they
Shifters
don't.
bad. Everyone else good. That's how it works.
That's not how that works.
Shifters are bad. They were born bad.
Here we go.
You could have a I don't know, a shifter who becomes a born again leyline walker, maybe. I don't know. But you have to give up the evil. You have to renounce the evil.
So
That
explain
means
to me
stop
why
being a
shifters
shifter.
are evil.
Oh God, we have a whole live stream on that.
No,
Yeah, we have a whole stream on it.
No. Okay.
The big question is,
I'll send you a link, Jeremy.
can a shifter be shiftless? And if he's shiftless, is he still a shifter?
No. He's a leyline walker.
Nice.
No,
I already forgot what we were talking about. So,
I got it. So NPCs should also be used not only as gravity in the world, where what I mean by gravity is by pulling the players to a certain area or in a certain direction. You're not telling them they got to go directly here, but if an NPC they like is in trouble, they will gravitate towards solving that problem. They'll want to solve that problem. You just make sure that problem is connected to your main plot, and now you've gotten all the PCs on a track heading forward through the story.
okay, well, for people who don't like railroad games, how do you get them in the verisimilitude of the world and not worry so much about plot? Because plot is for novels, not for games.
Well, again, that's kind of describing things. And I like to use NPCs, the classic, you see it in movies all the time, where the NPC, no-name NPC jumps up and says, he's sticking with the coalition analogy, maybe the coalition soldiers aren't doing anything, bad. They're just kind of hanging out. And this guy attacks them, and maybe even he's a cyborg, something powerful, and they take him down easy. I like to show people like, oh shit, this guy that you guys are about to go up to, or don't go, or don't know you're going to go up against until later. You see this guy take somebody down like super easy. And then you find out later, oh, that's the guy you need to capture, or oh, that's the guy you're going to have to defeat to rescue Fair Maiden this, or
or they killed somebody that now becomes a bigger problem later when he was actually more important than you thought. And oh, by the way, now the big guns are coming in.
Well, and again, just with us going or,
yep.
You see the versatility of NPCs. They can be the window to the world. and help set things up. And help introduce people to things. Like when people, say your heroes go, I'll go out and fight, monster X. And, maybe some villager comes up and goes, no, you don't understand. This creature has this ability and that ability. I've seen him do X, Y, and Z. And he killed and swallowed a cyber knight, a 10th level cyber knight, Coke's cousin, Fred. See, Bob, Fred, it works.
Fred, yep.
And then you go, holy crap, he killed Lord Coke's cousin Fred, who was like the 3rd greatest cyber knight known to man, according to rumor, or legend, or whatever. It gives it kind of sets the stage. It gives that sense of trouble, and it helps describe what you're going up against and the world you're in. Yeah.
Okay. So this use of NPC. That one seems like introducing backstory. What has come before you got here. The NPCs can give that information because guess what? They were here before you got here, so they would know. The other one was using NPCs to highlight specific facts you want the players to know, like the example you gave, that cyborg no-name NPC going after the coalition captain. You set that up so the PCs can see how powerful this coalition captain and his team actually is. So when later on they find out that he's the bad guy, they're not going to go, oh, he's a chump. No, they're going to know he's not a chump. They're going to know. So
and conversely, you could have him do something heroic and wonderful, where now the players are like, gosh, our coalition guys all bad? I mean, they saved the orphans out of the orphanage.
Yeah.
They 3 of them got killed in that battle. Golly, maybe everything we hear about them isn't true, etc. And that can be, with a DB, that can be with a Cyber Knight, that could be with any character to help set that stage and inform them about the world.
Oh, the societal and cultural norms of that area would be reflected in the NPCs. So, the player characters interacting with the NPCs is good just for general information about how they should act in this area. And then any specific information you want the NPCs to have that the PCs can, get one step closer to their goal.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And I want to say this because I know the people that watch our videos. Everybody knows that Heathen Dog likes a railroad game, and actually what he was putting out there is very important because a lot of you folks do like railroad games. I also know that there are a lot of people out there who despise railroad games and everything, that when that word comes up and you want everything to be pure sandbox. We're trying to approach this from multiple different directions so that you can make the best NPCs for your games as well. So please don't put Heathen Dog hate in the comments.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I don't want to deal with it because I always have to tell you that I read the comment. Hey, could you mind responding to this one?
Yeah, they're doing it wrong. If they want to tell on themselves, let them.
Let's see. We were just talking about. You already did that. You already did that. I guess I'm going to go back up to here and kind of go back to what the beginning of the segment was a little bit. So it was mentioned before about GM NPCs at some point, right? So how do you balance a helpful NPC, whether it's somebody that's a companion in the group or somebody's a patcher, or like we were just talking about, somebody that's just kind of ambiance, without letting him solve every problem? All of a sudden the players are like, well, he should know. Well, let's ask him. He should know.
Focus.
That's easy. He doesn't know. Well, don't you know this?
Right.
You lived here 20 years. It's like, nah, I never left my farm. Or I never went beyond, this point. Or, there's lots of reasons he might not know. Or he could just be too scared. Yeah, I know how to do this or where to go, but I do that all the time. I'm not going there. You're the freaking heroes. That's why we asked you for your help. I'm not going past this. I got a family I got to care for.
Yeah, if I die, who's going to feed them?
Yeah, exactly. Right. And then I also use, NPCs, especially no-name NPCs, to illustrate the danger. So, like if there's for example, a sniper in the area, I'm having the NPCs head go mush, not one of the players. So now they're all diving for cover and going, "What happened? What happened?" Again, that's another use of an NPC to show that there's danger. Or if it's magical, maybe he shrivels up, or he's the guy gets turned to stone, or whatever the case may be. That's another use of NPCs to help tell the story and create that sense of peril that the players can react to. And if they stand there, like a Walking Dead episode in the middle of a field going, "Everyone's dying, what should I do?" And then that player character is going to get killed because he's a moron. You have to react, and and you give them their chance, and you give them that warning shot, and it's the PC who died or got captured or whatever the case may be, got attacked by some horrible creature, and they realize, oh shoot, we're in vampire territory, or we're in the lair of monster X, Y, or Z. There's a gazillion uses for NPCs because they're everything. They're all your extras. If you're making a movie, you're the guy who's playing every single extra as the game master.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that the NPCs can be used to introduce problems to the players. And by introduce problems, I don't mean they cause them, but by virtue of what happens to them, the players can see a possible problem that's happening and whether they want to fix it or not.
Correct.
Okay.
And maybe they run away and then come readdress it, or maybe they just run away and it's like, but we thought you were heroes.
Well, you thought wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
And also I'm gonna add to this. An NPC should never have a solution. Never have a solution. The best an NPC can do is point you in the right direction.
Yes.
That's it. There should not be an NPC like, oh well, here it is, right here. Do that, and you're good. No NPC should have that knowledge ever. It keeps you away from the NPC doing all the work nonsense. Once the players figure out that the NPCs are not going to have the whole answer, they'll probably stop asking the wrong questions.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And how can you do that? I mean, you have your NPCs say, well, I'm gonna follow up. I'll protect our rear. I'm gonna be the guy in the back of the group as we're marching forward to do whatever. Or, I'm the guy who's going to. My character's thirsty and I'm going to the bar while the other characters are doing other things. The NPC should always be in the background. Now, I do think sometimes if the group is really stalled, the NPC can make some observation.
That's the gravity I was talking about. The NPCs can create gravity toward a either destination or outlook or course of action, whatever that you believe will get the group moving forward rather than just confused and not knowing where to go, stuff like that.
Yes. Yep.
I like the idea of also the NPC so that they're not relying on them all the time. The NPC is wrong. Obviously, I don't want my scout that, we'll just say for Rifts, the wilderness scout getting lost in the woods necessarily. I wouldn't do that. But, he's like, yeah, I've been to this village before. I know where it is that we need to go. We got to take care of this. He gets there and things have changed.
Yep.
The cartel has taken over, something like that. And he's not always right. Or I don't
the
like
information
doing
the
this.
NPC got was just wrong.
Yeah.
He believes it to be true, but he's just misinformed.
Yep.
That's entirely possible.
Squirrelherm.
I don't recommend doing that a whole lot.
Yeah. Unintentional misinformation is a really good tool for NPCs.
Yeah. It's a once in a while tool.
Right.
Not a long time tool. Not all the time tool. You don't want that.
But even then, when you are giving out information, when you are giving out information from an NPC, it's bits and pieces. You're never giving, as Kevin pointed out, it's never the whole thing. It's a kernel, right? Like just something to kind of like get them going, as you said, gravity in the right direction. right? But also do it from their point of view, right? Like a farmer's not going to describe goblins the same way a city watchman is, so paint things, give it some flavor too, make it interesting. Then the players kind of have to work to figure out if they're accurate, and then they find out later on if they are or not.
Well, and sometimes I like to play the players for dopes if they're that gullible. Like you got to think about, like, is this an NPC who's been hanging with your group and you trust, or is this some guy you picked up at a tavern or on a street corner who says, "Hey guys, I hear you're looking for a cyber guy who can help take care of this or that. I know exactly the place. Come on with me." And you describe this guy. He's kind of shady. He's got a bionic arm. He's got bloodstains on his pants. And if the group goes, and he's got a buzzsaw or a chainsaw hanging from his hip, and the group's
still
like
dripping with blood.
Yeah, and the group's like,
you don't turn up to 11 like that, but no, I
the
get
group's
it.
like, yeah, sure, Bob, take us
sure,
to this, and he takes them down this alley, and the next thing you know, it's a dead end, and these other cyber snatchers step out of the shadows, and they're like, sucker, and then it's like, to me, that's a side adventure, and I let the group go with it because, not every NPC is helpful. Again, how do you show the environment? This is a dangerous environment because these guys are about to chop off your bionic parts. And, you can't trust everybody, especially if they look really, seedy or dangerous, or let's go down this dark alley. I grew up in Detroit. No, the answer is no, we're not going down a dark alley. Or into your apartment, buddy. It's like, no. And whether that's a red herring, what you would consider red herring, Max, I don't know. But I mean, to me, it's like, this is how we show the world. And I don't set them up where they're all going to die, right. And I'm probably setting it up where they're going to be able to take these schmucks, pretty easily.
There should always be an out, is my rule.
I agree.
So I kind of do a little bit differently than that, just because the type of players that I used to have, who I always had to play. If I was going to trick them with that same thing you talked about, they would never do that. They would never he's wearing the motorcycle outfit. He's got the spikes coming out to here. He's got the mohawk. Yeah, we're not following that guy. He's obviously a drug lord, and he's gonna screw us up, right? So I had to do the opposite. It had to be the businessman. It had to be a bank teller number 3. If it was somebody who's all spiky and so forth, that actually had to be a good guy.
I don't have a problem with that. Again, what I love what you just brought up, though, is with my group, you play as a game master, you should be playing to the strengths and weaknesses of your group and what they like, what they're interested in, what they think they want to happen. Listen to your group and go with it. And every group's going to be different. And yes, I played with groups where, I would be using the handsome, guy who looks like, hey, I'm just a sweetheart. I am a law-abiding, happy citizen. I would never hurt a fly. And then he's the guy who leads them into some kind of a trap. Absolutely. You want to switch it up and have fun with it, and you want to play to your group.
But you definitely don't want to do that too much, because then they just start to expect it. But every now and again, it's a good gotcha. Heathen Dog's been starring a bunch of chat here. Actually, any of you three, I'd like to move on to the next topic here. We're going to be here 4 hours again. Jeremy, Heathen Dog, any follow-ups with that before we read some chat and then move on?
No, should be good.
No, good.
Okay. All right. Heathen Dog, you've been starring like everything. Just go ahead and start reading.
All right, let me see.
Heathen Dog's being nice to you guys today. My mentality is, it's not a super chat, and we are not, kind of low on time here. But he just started with going down the list, starring everything.
Okay, it did not. There was a CPK was making a comment that somebody else was whenever I retire a PC, whether it be mine or maybe somebody else in the group, they can come back later as an NPC to be used to develop the story or whatever, or the plot or get the pieces where they needed to go. And CPK was like, I stopped doing that because they all kept dying. They're supposed to be retired, and I'm putting them in danger again. And the PCs ended up getting them killed, apparently. So he stopped doing that.
I mean, that's one way to retire.
Yeah, that's one way to retire. Yeah.
And stop collecting Social Security.
And Chris Zeba says, love the new site. Running a solo campaign with blind warriors and shifters. Okay.
Nice.
Solo campaign with blind warriors and shifters. You realize, well, there's problems with this sentence. One, you can't have a solo with two different kinds of people.
Problems.
And the other one is you're playing with shifters. That's just, I don't know.
I see nothing wrong with this.
You see nothing wrong. All right. And then we have RPG Grandma says, also really annoy players with the least like guy in the party getting all the PR from the masses, like henchman number 3 gets all the ballads written about him. That, okay, yeah, no, Max, you should actually use this next time. You have to have the party have hirelings that are combat hirelings. Make them get all of the glory, and the PCs will fire them of their own accord. You don't got to make them; they'll just fire him because he's getting all the PR. And then Psycho Ghost says, in my group, I have an NPC Minotaur who is a servant for one of the characters, but in truth, he is the ultimate evil they will have to deal with in the future.
You just spoiled it. You know they're watching right now.
That's what I was going to say. Let's hope they're not watching, because
it is common though. I mean, in a lot of old stories and a lot of even contemporary stories, the hero and the villain grew up as best friends.
Yep.
You know, that's a story as old as whenever. You know, it happens. And you know, having the hireling turn into, you know, has been actually, you know, playing with you puppet master wise this entire time in the background, because no one's going to think the Minotaur did all that.
Right. I love it.
Yeah.
I love those situations.
That's going to make them mad though. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, the PCs will get mad. You think it is if you are using an NPC in a very brilliant, in what you think is a very brilliant and emotional and powerful way, the PCs will become mad at you. Now, is it going to be justifiable? Maybe not. Is it going to be for a long time? Probably not. But their initial shock is going to be anger toward you. Just live with that.
Good.
Accept that.
Nice. I partially agree with that, but I think if it's done well, I wouldn't be mad at the game master if it's done well. I'd only be mad at the game master if it was a cheap, like, you knew this wasn't the intent and you just pulled this out of your, I got to do something, and you can tell that. Other than that, I'd be like, man, if we would have just followed a couple of clues better, like, you know, something like that. I actually kind of like that.
I know, but like I said, in the moment, expect the most likely response to be anger.
They're going to feel the betrayal, and they're going to take it out of
the
actual betrayer.
They're human beings. They want to project that pain onto a cause, and guess what? You're the universe, so you're the cause. You did it. They'll come around. As long as it was done well, they will come around.
And have a contingency plan in case they do find out earlier. I don't mean a contingency plan where he has to live. I'm just saying, like, hey, if they find out earlier, maybe it's one of those things where if they find out earlier, he's easier to kill or dispatch or whatever, take to prison, whatever it is the goal is. But as this keeps going on and on, he's gaining power with them because you keep getting swords of doom and armors of whatever. And he's like, thank you.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to point out.
Start off.
Oh, wait.
Go ahead, Jeremy. Go ahead.
He doesn't have to start off as the big bad evil guy. Like this guy, this NPC, this Minotaur's the servant with the guy. He could become a big bad evil guy because of circumstances in the future, right? He's not bad now, but something down the line happens and he makes a choice because, you know, to sacrifice and become this big bad evil guy. It happens. So, and those are really impactful too, because those usually are very personal for the players. So those are
it's a Darth Vader story.
Yep.
Yeah.
At least in theory.
Or Lex Luthor, or you know, all that stuff. Yeah, but before Superman came around, Lex Luthor, he was ruthless, but he wasn't a horrible murderer because his ego wasn't constantly in jeopardy. And then Superman came around, and now he realizes he is the lesser of them, and he's used to being top dog. He takes it personal.
I also want to point out the NPC setting where, because I've had this happen, where the guy who joins the group is manipulating them for, subtly for his own purposes. And then they find out, he's the big bad guy and he's been manipulating them. And yeah, they will hate that character, which means he's a great returning villain.
Mm-hmm.
I love returning villains. Maybe it's the comic book in me, the comic book guy in me, but use it, man. And they hate that guy. Don't kill him. Let him escape. Let him come back to mess with them again and again. It's great. You make them their Lex Luthor or, Kingpin or whatever the case may be. It's great. I had a couple characters, you just mentioned their name, and the players would jump out of their seat and go, "Is it so and so? Where is he? He must die." And it's like, geez, oh Pete, man, chill.
Yeah,
but it's great.
If you have an NPC villain like that, you should have absolutely no problem getting your PCs to go where you want them to go. Just put the bad guy around the destination, and they'll go.
Oh yeah.
They hate this guy so much they'll drop what they're doing. Honeymoon, later, honey.
It's funny you said that, because there was a situation where one of the main player characters had just gotten married. He was about to go on his honeymoon, and they're like, Zale. It's like Zale and Jack Ork. And there's like, what? Where? Honey, I've got to take care of this guy. This guy's ultimate evil. I'll be back. And it's like, but it's our honeymoon and you might die. And it's like, I must do this. And the whole group is like, where are they? It was great.
All right, what's next?
Any more chat? Or is that all of it?
I like this one. Darth Theek says every villain is the hero of his own story. Well, yeah, I mean, the whole good guy, bad guy is a combination of your individual perspective and the cultural norm of where this is taking place.
Yep.
That just determines who's good and who's bad. So yeah, I mean, they would be the hero of their own story, because in their head, the world would be better if they were in charge, or the world would be better if everyone were dead, or the world would be better if
right.
So there you go. Yeah, I get that.
All right. If that is all the chat, do me a favor. Don't delete the super chats, because I might need them later. But can you delete the regular ones that are there? Grizzly Beardo on Rumble said, now this goes back to the whole naming thing, but he says, just search for behind the name random name generator. It has settings for dozens of real world cultures, mythologies, and even a couple of made up cultures. Good tool for writing too. You're welcome. All right. Thank you very much, Grizzly Beardo, for the Rumble rant.
Also, Timothy Farelli asked, does Kevin support using tools like Story Engine card set to make NPC? Story Engine card? Was that
there are a lot of different
like Oracle cards.
Yeah, it's like Oracle cards. I mean, there are different a bunch of different cards and was it random tables and so on and so forth that people have created for making interesting NPCs.
Yeah, I don't use them myself, but I don't have any problem with it. Again, role playing is personal, and whatever helps you, run a successful game, use it if that's helpful to you. And I can see how, if you're in a pinch and you're like, I don't know, and you grab a deck of cards and pull something out, and it's like, okay, I'll run with this. I see nothing wrong with that. That's great.
It shouldn't. I don't think it should be that way for every NPC, because there are NPCs who have to have certain knowledge, have to have a certain craft, have to have a certain whatever. But many of the other NPCs, it doesn't matter if they're boy, girl, if they're good, evil, whatever. That's not the function they're playing in the world right now. They just churn milk, dude. That, I don't care if you're Hitler. You're just churning milk. You just
gotta use the worst examples ever.
Yeah, like the worst guy in the world. He's just a milk churner. He doesn't matter.
Well, so now that apparently we're segueing into antagonists and and their folks, well, Kevin already started us down this road, but let me ask the question and see if we can dive a little more into it. What separates a memorable villain? There's the words from just some generic bad guy.
Reoccurrence.
I think reoccurrence can help. I think it's hard for me to say for sure because apparently I'm just a natural at it. Eric Woodjick often would say, yeah, that Kevin makes the greatest villains ever. And in his opinion, is like of anyone on the planet, which I don't go that far at all, but I'm good at them. And again, I think part of it is showing. I think part of it is showing elements of that guy's character, maybe his arrogance or his callousness, or the powers he has, or the horrible people he associates with, or the terrible things that he does. And again, to go with what Heathen Dog had mentioned earlier, he's walking down the street and he kicks the puppy, or crushes its head, and pushes the pregnant woman out of his way, or has one of his henchmen do that. That all, are natural things that people go, mother, and
No, that's exactly what my answer is going to be. A memorable bad guy rather than just a bad guy. I think if you can get the PCs to take their particular brand of evil personally, be personally offended, that guy is going to be memorable. They're good because they're definitely going to remember him. But if you have a generic bad guy number 4 who is enslaving elves, and you don't have any elves in your party, they're not going to take it personally. Sure, he's a bad guy, they're going to want to stop him, but it's not going to feel, strong to the PCs. But if you have a bad guy who is taking elf slaves, and one of the PCs is an elf, have him end up taking her cousin or mother or father or brother or whatever. Now it's personal. Oh, they're going to remember, and he gets away. They're going to be pissed that he got away. In the aforementioned, they're not taking it personal. If the bad guy gets away, yeah, but we freed all the slaves, so it's a win. But if they're personally hurt by this guy, they're going to say, yeah, we freed all the slaves, but it's not a win. That guy's still breathing air. So we failed. That's the memorable guy.
And I can tell you for a fact that you don't even have to go that far, but you hit big time on personal. Make it personal. You can just go up and have, arrogant, Lord so-and-so comes up and just is just a snide asshole. And it's like, oh, elves. Never had much use for elves. And he just insults them. People respond really strongly to disrespect.
Is this whole live stream about me?
What
works great.
Yeah, what I've done once or twice is the whole introduce the NPC barmaid, who's like 11-year-old boy is trying to help her today because dad was conscripted to the upcoming war. Now I'm laying out some future plot by that, but also I have some future bad guys in the bar, and the barmaid is attending them, and the kid's trying to help, but he spills a little ale on one of the bad guys, and the bad guy hits the kid. Oh man, you want players to lose their shit? Do that. And suddenly who's good and who's bad is just crystal clear. All the doubt just burns away.
Yep. And I also love what you said about like setting up what I took as setting up story plot elements down the road. So our heroes step in, help the kid, help mommy, probably give her a nice tip, and you hear a little bit of her story and how her husband's going to be going off to war soon, and then 5 episodes later, they run into the husband.
Yep.
And you've
dying
got
on the battlefield.
Or just in need of help or rescue or dying, any of that. It just, there's an instant feeling of connection, and again, this is how you use NPCs, because there's that sense of familiarity and connection, and now you can have that NPC direct them into, hey, I've got this secret bit of information before I die. I want to tell you, here's the plans to the frickin' Death Star, or whatever the hell it is, the way to sneak into the castle, or they don't know that this guy is going to be in this particular village, and if you can get him, you can capture him and bring him to justice or kill the mother. And it's that kind of cool thing. And again, because the players have that sense of connection, and they know this guy's a good guy because his wife told him she is, and he has this great little kid, and the group's going to feel like they want to avenge daddy. It's just great. And yes, it's all story elements, and it may sound a little bit like manipulation sometimes, but when you're done, they're going to have this sense of scope and drama and heroics and pathos, and it's going to create a great gaming experience because they felt the connection to the world, the other people in it, which are all NPCs. This is what NPCs do. Don't be afraid to use them. They are part of your tool for good storytelling and creating a great adventure.
One of my cautionary tales with that is don't rush it. Let those kind of relationships, good, bad, or otherwise, let them actually grow naturally. One of the things, I used to do this when I was younger. I've seen a lot of people do it even more recently, where it's like they rush that guy, like, well, you're supposed to like this guy. Not enough has really happened for me to care that much, But if you can have event after event after event, even if they're small, each one of those is a little touchstone for the person to remember, a little bug in the ears, I like to say, and you can build that relationship sometimes even to a point beyond what you expected it to be. It's like, I just kind of wanted him to be a little trope out there, so you recognize, like, now you guys are all wanting to burn down like 3 empires over just barmaid's husband, but just don't rush it.
Well, and I also want to add to that, as cool as NPCs and what great motivators NPCs can be, especially in the scenario we just, the 3 of us just laid out. I hate to say it, and this will sound terrible, and hopefully people don't hate me for this, but a lot of times players, human beings, tend to be selfish. And I was, my Defiler group, famously, they're all, 3/4 of them are all good alignment, scrupulous and unprincipled, and there's some anarchist and even an aberrant or two in there, but the majority are all heroes. And a lot of times it would turn out to be, yeah, that's a real shame, and that sounds bad, and they're not really motivated to do anything until, oh yeah, and he's got the famous rune sword or he's sitting at 1 million in credits or gold, and now it's like, wait, what? We get to save people, help people, and we could get 1 million credits or 1 million in worth of gems that's worth 1 million gold, or this amazing magic item. Now we're in it because it's an adventure game, and they're kind of, they want ways to power up.
They want to win.
Exactly. So don't be afraid to throw that in, and don't be afraid to, when they do all this and they save the day, it's not 1 million credits or gems worth 1 million gold. It's 10,000.
It's a hug and a flower.
Yeah, or there's nothing. That's what the guy heard. That's what the guy related, but he was wrong. We talked about that again. NPCs are not infallible. He was just wrong. Or they got there and, the Nazi treasure was moved an hour earlier. And it's like, yeah.
We should have gone to the Vatican. So a lot of this that we've been talking about right here is really good for even well, I guess we are talking antagonists, kind of having that emotional attachment, anger, animosity towards people, we'll say, near the character's level or maybe even beneath the character, but still can have an actual effect on the character. But let's kind of flip it towards now we're talking like the big bad villain. First of all, and this question came up to me from a couple of people, so I promised I'd ask it, so I'm asking. how, or well, I want to ask it first, do you? And then follow it up, if you do, how do you keep a main antagonist hidden? For example, you think you're going after the man behind the throne, but there's actually the man behind the woman behind the man behind the throne that hasn't appeared yet, but you know is actually pulling the puppet strings. One, do you do that? And two, how do you do that to keep the players engaged, not as like, oh God, we got one more, really?
Again, part of it I think is being able to read the room. You know, if your players are fed up with that, and you don't think that's going to be very successful, and they're going to feel frustrated, don't do that. But yeah, I do that lots of times where they think the big bad guy is this, and they realize it's really, you know, one of his henchmen, or the wife, or it was the, you know, the cardinal behind the king, and who is manipulating the wife to do, you know, who knows, you know, it has to do with good storytelling and setting it up without being too contrived, or too convoluted. You know, that's something I think sometimes people think they really need to have these big complex storylines, and sometimes just straightforward adventure is just as great and grand as anything else.
I've learned that players will actually make it more convoluted than it actually is.
And again, that's where you read the room and listen to your players and kind of run with it. If you're thinking, I'm going to set it up so that, you know, this person is really behind all this, and the group kind of starts getting that idea, or maybe you didn't have that idea, and the group's like, I bet the arch cardinal or the archbishop or the wife or the vizier or who knows what, you know, is really behind this, and it sounds like a good idea. Maybe you want to twist your story a little bit so that that is the case, even though you had no intention of doing that. If they become convinced that that's the case and it'd make for a better story, go with it. Or maybe it's a fun story to let them think that, and they get there and they confront the person, and the guy's or the woman's like, but I don't know what you're talking about. None of that's happening. And they're like, oh, sorry, ma'am. We got a little overzealous here, and our imaginations ran away with us. That's okay too. That can be played for laughs.
Mm-hmm. Jeremy, got anything you want to add to that, or?
No, Kevin hit most of it on the head.
Just want to make sure I'm giving you time to speak here. I don't want to keep going on to the next thing. You're like, hey, I wanted to say something. So
yeah, I'm sorry, Jeremy.
No,
too. I get excited on these subjects, and I am kind of stealing all the airtime here. Sorry.
It's all good, man.
well, so and now we're gonna flip it even a little bit more. This is one that I think a lot of people have trouble with. I've been a mixed bag on this one. Sometimes I do a really good job. Sometimes I will just say I don't do it as well as I could. NPCs that aren't enemies, like they're not morally, it's not good versus evil. It can be scrupulous, but they have differing objectives. And now you're at odds for whatever reason. How do you implement that without making it be, well, what he did was obviously evil, or these must be evil people out there? I mean, you can think the guy next door is evil, even though he's not. But without making it good versus evil, how do you make a compelling NPC or NPC group for the party?
So that one, politics is a really good tool for that, because with it, it's all about agendas, right? Your NPCs have an agenda. It doesn't always have to align with what the party's doing. So maybe you've got the local mayor hired the PCs to do X, Y, and Z, but the mayor and the city guard and the watch, you know, they expect a certain outcome. The PCs decide to take justice into their own hands. That's not what they were hired for, and now they're at odds for each other for it. They both want the right thing, but it's not the same anymore.
Jeremy, I'm going to ask this to you specifically on this one. Do you think that a coalition grunt can have a good alignment?
Absolutely. I mean, if you want to elaborate, I mean, people join the coalition for safety in a world where demons and monsters and gods and dragons can literally hop out around the corner. Having this group that's there with technology and power and the ability to fight back when you're dealing with supernatural terrors on a regular basis, yeah, you can be a good guy, join the coalition, and have this mindset of, you haven't looked at the big picture yet, right?
Mhm.
You're just, I want to do my part. I want to help protect people too, and the coalition can help get me there because that's what these people do. Until you start obviously seeing more and more of what they do.
Yeah,
But
part
that's
of the
fun.
coalition. Go ahead, Jeremy.
But that's the fun bit. You're adding that conflict, that
Mhm.
upcoming, confrontation of morals that will occur, and that is flavor for the game. It's great.
I agree.
Part of the coalition's propaganda is that they are the heroes of humanity, and from a certain perspective, they are the heroes of humanity because they see all DBs, dimensional beings, as invaders, as monsters. They see magic as being dangerous and used by demons and other things that are clearly inhuman and monstrous. Plus, they don't understand how magic can work. And so it itself is rather alien. And so, from their perspective, yeah, it's bad and it's easy. I mean, come on, they do it in every war where you dehumanize the enemy because it's easy to kill a monster. It's not so easy to kill a woman or a child. And some coalition people take it, too far, or are just so convinced that they're evil. It's like, oh, great, we got to kill a whole family. We wiped out a nest of them. Even if these were wonderful, nice people who would have helped the coalition in some way, from their perspective, because everything's a matter of a perception and degree, from their perception and the degree by which they see everything, that family was a nest of monsters, and we wiped it out and made it safer for the rest of human beings. That's a good thing. Now, human nature being what it is, some of these guys like that power, abuse that power, like a man-eating tiger. They like the killing, they like the violence, they like doing that, and those guys become the more bad guys. And then the part of the theme that got kind of interrupted with the passing of Kathy and some other stuff is with this whole, we've got a greater evil with the invasion of the Minion War, with the devils and demons coming in. There's a big pitch for heroes unite. Now, when Emperor Prosek says that, he's thinking humans, let's unite. But what ultimately happens on the battlefield, if the CS commander allows it, is they figure, hell, these DBs and these mages, let's use them for fodder. Let them make the first run and we'll come in and clean up. Let them die because, we're killing two birds with one stone. The monsters and the mages are all dying fighting the demons. That's great. And then we come in and clean up.
Yeah.
But what they see on the battlefield is, holy shit, that DB just sacrificed his life to save mine. Or, man, look how heroic these guys are. Look how hard they're fighting. And then they get to talk to them and meet them. That's the thing, is familiarity may breed contempt sometimes, but it more often breeds camaraderie and a sense of family. That's why, the Band of Brothers movie, I mean, that's a common term, because when you're in the foxhole fighting for your life and fighting a common enemy, you become like brothers.
Well, let's look at Germany, and it was either France or the UK. I forget, whatever it was, in World War I. Played a soccer game on Christmas Eve or Christmas Eve during World War I.
Yeah.
And then the next day went back to shooting each other.
Yeah.
That was the no man's land where they had the trenches, and they stopped for one night to hang out and celebrate Christmas together.
Yeah. So that's where that's kind of heading, and that's going to change the whole thing, because when that war ends, there's going to be, hundreds of thousands of coalition soldiers who are like, I don't know if DBs are so bad. I don't know if mages should all be feared and executed. Again, it's a matter of perception, and that changes with like experiences. Now, depending on what the experience is, some will be more convinced than ever that, yeah, man, they all need to die. We pushed back the demon hordes. Now it's time to finish off these other mages and monsters. There's going to be some interesting storylines going on there. And I'm sorry it kind of got,
That's okay.
temporarily stalled there, but that's where I'm kind of heading, because there's never just black and white in any conflict or any war in life itself. There's always nuances and shades of gray, and that's what makes life difficult.
Well, I'd like to actually, this isn't part of my notes or anything, but I'd like to kind of stick with this for just a moment in terms of the coalition. And then the reason I'm doing this, just to be open and transparent out there, is I do know people who said there's literally impossible. You can never be a good guy and be on the side of the coalition. You can never be a good guy and be on, a part of the empire, which just doesn't make any sense to me. I get on the leadership side, that might be true, but
Right.
But you like you were saying, you're going to have these moral dilemmas at some point, right? How does a coalition grunt, a coalition sergeant, a coalition lieutenant, somebody who's not fully up there, how does he at one point, he's been given the order to wipe out this area, or he knows he has a chain of command that he has to follow at some point here. How does he get around that? Again, player character, we're talking, these are player characters dealing with the NPCs. What are some good ideas that players can maybe think about that, because look, I don't think of the coalition as stupid. You can't just be like, oh, boom, 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 ha, 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 we killed them all. Look, don't go look over that hill, though, because the coalition's going to be smarter than that, right?
Right.
How can you play those NPCs around the player characters to make that realistic, but still have that moral dilemma where they don't have to break that, be like, I'm scrupulous, but now I just had to slaughter a whole ton of people. I can't do that.
Yeah, it gets tricky. Jeremy, did you want to run with her first, or you don't have to? I mean, I can, there's little ways. Go ahead.
Right. I mean, like, one, you're dealing with the coalition. They've got their propaganda machine, so understand how the NPCs have been influenced by that. I'm actually going to use Star Wars as an example. In The Force Awakens, you've got the stormtrooper Finn, who has this moral dilemma as he's being called to kill these seditious rebels in this camp, but he's seeing like villagers and normal people, right? And it gets to him, but he's reprimanded for it. So it's like, how would the coalition respond to that? Well, it's a military unit. If you disobey orders, you're going to be reprimanded. Have the consequences flow and lead the character towards a way out.
So
right?
I love what you said there. You said something very, very important to me. Reprimanded. He didn't go out and kill him.
Okay, yeah.
Well, because I've seen the other extreme, like, you didn't obey orders and we're the evil guy. Boom, boom, boom. Like, whoa, what? Is that they act even more inhuman than what they should be.
Yeah, they're not.
That reprimand. The coalition would not exist if they just started killing off everybody who said one bad word or made one bad decision.
Yeah, right. I thought he said two great words there. Reprimand and consequences.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, there's going to be consequences for disobeying those orders, and reprimand is one, being sent back for reorientation, being sent to the front, being sent on a more dangerous mission. Maybe the character goes AWOL. There's going to be huge consequences to that if he gets caught. There's all kinds of things that you can do, but think consequences and not necessarily, it's the firing squad for you. I mean, they're going to sit back and go, hey, this was a loyal coalition soldier for X amount of time. Clearly, he's been mind fucked by DBs or magic or evil psychics, and how do we reorient him? That's going to be a big thing, because they don't, clearly the coalition, despite all its faults, tries not to give up on human beings. So they're not just going to kill human beings, especially one who's been loyally serving them for a while, right off the bat. But sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead. And even if it's, hey, you're being sent to prison, or you're going to be, put in the equivalent of a work camp or a concentration camp, depending on how involved he was say maybe with other player characters are mages or inhuman, maybe they go to rescue him, or maybe they just, he's just got to deal with the consequences, and it's time to roll up a new character for a while. It's hard to say.
Re-education camp.
Re-education camp, exactly.
So Heathen Dog, as our resident coalition officer,
yes,
how do you handle that situation?
Well, you are correct in the whole fact that if you disobey a direct order because you are morally against it, if you are enlisted, you will be gone to trial and you'll probably be shot with a execution squad or whatever. But that's not going to happen that moment, right? There's all kinds of moments in between then and when you get shot. That's when the player characters or the player group has to decide, okay, are we going to let this happen or are we going to go? If you're an officer, well, you're actually supposed to question orders that are immoral and not do them and then take the consequences. So if you are a lieutenant in the coalition and you're a good guy and your colonel tells you to murder all these children, they're just going to grow up to be mages anyway. And you're like, that's not how mages work. And you say no and you let them go. Again, there are consequences for your action. You have to decide what you're going to do up to the point where the decision's made for you, the firing squad.
So what you're saying is that the coalition isn't just kill everyone because we're just mindless automatons.
No.
Wow,
orders that come from higher up on the chain, colonels, generals, and higher, can be, especially to the lower ranking grunts, even the lower ranking officers, seem sadistic and cruel. When in actuality, on paper, it's a numbers game. Yeah, sure, not everyone in this area is going to be an active bad guy, but we do not have the ability or manpower to ferret out exactly who is good and who is bad. And it was deemed on the numbers game that this was the most efficient and best solution. Burn the village down. And you have to decide if you're on board with that math. And as a PC who maybe is a good guy with the coalition and is getting disillusioned, there's your story. You're going to desert, and then you are going to try and find your way on your own in the new world, get a new moral compass, all that good stuff. That's all part of your character growth. That's an amazing campaign right there. That's great.
Yeah, I just wanted, so between what Kevin was saying, what you were saying, what Jeremy was saying earlier, what I wanted to show is that it's not just black and white. It's not just up, you have to run away immediately because they're all going to come out, get you and kill you. And on the other side, it's not just like, well, we got to kill all DBs because that's what we were told to do. There is definitely some gray area in there. And in terms, remember, this topic is about NPCs. What people need to realize is, and Kevin was talking about this earlier, is that, they all have their points of view. Everybody's got their human emotions. Somebody put in the comments here, I normally want to save this, but I think that for the purposes of this, the CS field commanders understand that peace is more important than opening a new war front. Read the Three Rifts novels. Yes. Apparently that's in there. That it's not just a black or white decision. You disobeyed, you must die. They're DBs, they must die. Where the coalition go. That's really what I was trying to get out. And all three of you absolutely express that.
Yeah. If you as a game master have the bad guys, whoever they are, be evil all the time, you're doing it wrong. It's not like that. You don't wake up, brush your teeth, and oh yeah, I'm gonna do something evil today. No, that's not how it works. There, in every coalition, I'm gonna stay with this because that's where we're at. Captain is head of a squad or a lieutenant. He's not going to immediately, one of these villagers is a traitor. I know it. I'll just burn them all. I'll get them. They're not going to do that. They're not. They're going to try and find the actual traitor. All right. Maybe one time out of 10, the captain will go, yes, burn them all. The children too. But 9 times out of 10, that's not going to happen.
One out of 10
not
is
gonna
still a
immediately
lot.
go to the most evil. What's that?
So 1 out of 10 is still a lot.
It's still a lot, yeah,
Yes.
but it's a hard world they live in. So, the hard choices get made more often. But
Well, and I wanted to say one of the cool things, and something I think game masters and players shouldn't lose sight of, is especially in a setting like Rifts and the Coalition, you've got this huge back setting and backstory going on. But your players are part of a much smaller. You got this big war going on, but your player group is that group, and whether they're a special ops or whether they're part of a battalion or whatever, it's a much smaller. It's like you zoom in, like there's a million stories in the Naked City. That used to be a line on an old TV show, about New York City, and then zooms into our story this week is about this one guy or this family or this police guy, and that's you. You are the zoom in, and you're that particular little microcosm. And so, especially in war, and especially in difficult decisions, sometimes there are small victories.
Mhm.
So while you and your battalion are supposed to wipe out this village, maybe you're able to save a family or 3, and you're able to usher them out where everyone else. So you saved some lives, but the rest got, wiped out. And that helps you deal with the terrible things you have to do. Or maybe you justify it as there's this big, horrible, bad thing here, or all these people seem to be supporting this big, horrible, bad thing. So, we have to wipe them out. And, those are the difficult decisions. And that's why when you're playing, especially like a war story, that's why they say war is hell. It's awful. I mean, you have to do horrible things. That's why a lot of vets don't want to talk about the things that they've seen or done, because in the name of whatever their mission was and whatever agenda and beliefs they were trying to support, they had to do freaking awful this, killing anybody. We're desensitized as a viewing audience who plays video games and role playing games.
Or it's romanticized.
Yes. And so it's like, oh yeah, kill those mothers. And it's like, yeah, it'll be easy. I could kill those guys, but in real life, if you have to kill somebody, it's not an easy thing. It's not a pretty thing. It's not. I mean, it's horrible just to see someone's brains splattered on a wall, and it changes you. And because we're playing games like John Wick, I'm not saying specifically John Wick, but I mean games where, come on, John Wick kills what, 200-300 people a movie. Like it's nothing, and we're all sitting there going, yeah, John. In real life, that would be horrendous, and John Wick would probably be the monster, although he's killing most all fellow bad guys. That's sort of the justification why he can get away with that and why we can root for him. But they're all bad guys. They're all killers, and none of that would be easy. And if you just even witness them, people are traumatized just seeing a gunfight and people die in front of their eyes. They didn't pull the trigger. They just witnessed it, and they're messed up for the rest of their lives in many cases. It's hard, and we just kind of gloss over that because we're playing heroic fantasy games, whether it's science fiction or actual fantasy or superheroes. You kill the bad guys. And it's fun escapism. And that gets back to how much does the game master want to bring in those shades of gray and realism. Nothing in a game is particularly real, but for lack of a better term, and that's up to you and your players. If they like that really grim or realistic stuff, you do.
How much moral ambiguity do you want in your world?
Yep.
Well, and how much visceralness,
Right.
like I run visceral games, so I get pretty disgusting when I talk about this stuff, but I do it intentionally because I don't want them doing more. I want them to visual. One of my favorite scenes in a movie, and this is an older one now, and I know there are betters, but it's always stuck with me, was the beginning of Braveheart when the kid goes into the shed and he sees I love just, it's like, Imagine this is real now. People you know are on meat hooks. Like
How would
this
you
isn't-
grow up?
Yeah, right. You know?
Yeah. And
It is a great
a
scene.
lot of movies do that. They have this start. There was the one with Gene Hackman that was the 50 paces, duel movie. I forget what was I forget what it was called, but one of the characters, the female characters, had a chance to free her father from a noose if she could take a revolver and shoot the rope. Well, she ended up accidentally shooting her father in the head.
Yeah.
And the bad guy was, well, that'll do too, and then ran off. Left her there with her father's hanging dead body.
Yep.
How would you grow up then? If that was the main character, how do you expect her to react going forward? Yeah, you're going to be messed up, and you're going to have beef, and you're going to react in a certain way in certain situations, stuff like that. If you have an NPC like that, you have to be careful that NPC is not taking over the show.
Mhm.
But a story like that can really light a fire under PC's butts and get them moving.
Well, what if
If they
you're
can
now tagged
feel-
to go? You go hunt down John Wick. He's killed too many. We don't care if you like what he did. He murdered 50, 100 people,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
That we can't have that unless you want your name associated with that. Your job is to go get him.
Yeah, and that is often in stories and TV and movies. The
Billy the Kid,
cop's
right?
dilemma. The detective hunting the anti-hero.
Mhm.
Does
Yeah.
he really want to catch him? Should he? He has to try. That's his job. It's his moral code, but he doesn't really want to because he understands what the anti-hero is doing. Same thing with Rambo. Rambo, there was a running joke. They actually made 2 or 3 movies parodies of all the killing that Rambo does in all of his movies. Hundreds of people die on screen. Is he a good guy? I don't know, man.
He saved a
how many-
POW.
yeah, how many for one guy? For one POW, he killed
That's a few
hundreds
more.
of people. You at that point, you got to step
They
back.
were
and go,
commies.
okay,
They deserved it.
They're bad
the
guys,
cost-benefit ratio on this. All right. I mean, could I even possibly get into heaven now? I've killed hundreds of people for a guy that I don't know.
Well,
At
bringing
all.
this back to a game for a moment, I think Free League handles this really well with its cold-blooded ability. So you can't coup de grace somebody unless you spend a willpower point, so you're giving up some of you and make a roll. Unless you have cold-blooded, then you can, but you're literally giving up we'll call it a skill slot or a talent slot for that to represent something like that. Now, do we need rules for that? Not necessarily, but I'm kind of glad that they have that, just as an example of out there of trying to say you can talk a tough game until you're put out there in that situation, and then we'll see what really happens, right? With that said, bringing this back to our topic a little bit here, fifth columns. So something as big as the coalition is probably going to have a fifth column of some sort. Now, let's just arbitrarily say that the players aren't coalition. They aren't playing the fifth column. They're on the other side, but they now have a contact with the coalition. What are some interesting ways that they can have contact that still feel meaningful? Not like, yeah, we got our buddy over there, we'll just go talk to him. She can't get away all the time. Like, what are some cool ways that an NPC, a fifth column NPC who wants to help these guys but can't, can work with them?
Well,
Well, so
my
Go ahead,
first
Jeremy.
blush on this is you have their approach through an intermediary, like the fifth column coalition guy. He's a first sergeant. He's been trying to get to turn his lieutenant to stop burning villages down or whatever, and he's starting to fail, so he needs help. He will contact the group through an intermediary, the little flower girl or the barmaid or the cobblestone guy, which I still don't understand what his job is, but they get a message through there, meet somewhere XYZ coordinates at this time, and then you'll meet deep coalition to be in a trench coat.
What were you going to
Stuff
say,
like that.
Jeremy?
so Savage Rifts has an adventure called the Garnet Town Gambit, but it's a good starter adventure. And in it, you've got the Coalition as one of the factions that wants to pretty much get this village's trust, right? You have the Coalition, you have the Federation of Magic, and you've got the Tomorrow Legion, right? You assume your players are part of the Tomorrow Legion. The Coalition aren't necessarily bad guys in this particular instance, right? And you can make combat with, or not make combat, make contact with their commander to help protect the town, depending on how things go, right? You've got an alliance of goals, right? Like now, instead of being in oppositions with the Coalition, your immediate goals are in alignment. Of course, they can work with you at that point. You can be field assets. These are people in the field. They're not answering to the generals and the commanders up there that are spouting the propaganda. These are people that are having to get the results done, and they're going to do what's necessary to keep themselves alive while also getting the results done. So they're not entirely unreasonable either. And so at that point, yeah, the commander can just reach out at that point. He's got the authority to be able to do that. Is people might go, well, why are you doing that? Well, they're going to be expendable resources, kind of like how Kevin mentioned earlier, right? Like, he can sell it as, well, we're going to use them. Oh, okay, that's acceptable. He can just pass that off, and then that relationship grows.
Yeah, that works. Intermediaries work. Sometimes just whispering in the right ear. He can leak information. And again, not necessarily directly. He could start a rumor that could help the heroes or put them on the right path to save a town or an individual or whatever the case may be. There's a lot of little things you can do to do that without jeopardizing their contact at within the Coalition.
Okay. Well, I only really have one more point of interest here because of our time. I'm actually we had call it 3 segments planned for today. This was just segment 1, folks. I'm not going to make Kevin stay for another 2 hours this time, like we did the last time he was here. We duct taped him and threatened his agent. But so I'm going to ask one more question, then we'll hit some chat and then see if there's anything that was left out there. Remember, our topic, I guess, for today was just about dealing with companions and allies, and now dealing with antagonists and villains. Where was it? So this is one that I wanted to get out there. Now, this is more of, I can think of a Heroes Unlimited type thing, maybe, but a recurring villain. The villain that you want to kind of be the crux of your story for a while. And you know that players have these ingenious ways of killing them the first time they see him. How do you maintain a recurring villain without there always being combat, or without, as soon as he shows up? I would say don't have him show up, but that's too simple of an answer. As soon as he shows up, the PC's like, he dies or we die. How do you make him engaging and interesting without either him killing the party or the party killing him day one that they see him?
Well, especially with the comic book stuff, a lot of these guys are megalomaniacs. So, it's easy to not kill them. Jeremy, it seemed like you wanted to respond. You go ahead.
Well, so one, know your group, right? If they are the murder hobo type, right, where they're apt to, a dead villain is a villain who can't come back, which most of the times they're correct unless you're dealing with comic book logic. But have consequences for that, right? Like heroes taking justice into their own hands and killing a villain, right? That's going to alert the authorities that these are potentially very dangerous people. You've got people with superpowers that are willing to use it to kill, right? And just have those consequences ramp up every time they do that more and more, whether it's a mook, whether it's a big bad evil guy, and start teaching them the hard way that they're going to lose trust. They're going to start having to they're going to be put on trial for murdering these people, for vigilantism, etc. Just death should not be the solution to what they're doing. And if your group doesn't agree to that initially, then make them suffer the consequences for it.
Well,
and this is why I can't play superhero games.
Well, when I think as a game master, that's when you take a time out and say, hey guys, you're heroes. You can't kill them. You can bring them to justice.
Oh, my agency.
And remind them that, if they kill him, their alignment is going to go from, good to evil, and it'll be a long road back to being a hero. And they may not care; they may still do it. But so there's that. There's also, are they as likely to kill the guy when they've beaten him and they're about to deliver the death blow, and a bunch of police officers show up and they're ready to take the guy away? I mean, are they going to fight the police to kill this guy or shoot this guy in the face right in front of the police? Probably not.
So the typical PC response is, if we don't do this, he'll come back and we'll have to do this again, and we're actually just saving future lives.
Well, you can argue that, but it's still not. It's still against the law, and it's still going to hurt your
right.
Your
but the thing is, players are dumb. They're going to kill him anyway. No matter what you say about consequences, or you're going to be in jail for 20 years, stuff like that. They don't care. They want the win now. They're still going to do it. What I recommend is creating a Highlander situation. And no, I don't mean the bad guy's immortal. I mean the most puzzling thing that the movies Highlander and the TV show Highlander did was make holy ground completely sacred. You can't fight on holy ground. That created story time between the good guy and the bad guy, where they can do nothing but talk while on holy ground. Do something like that. Put the put the bad guy and the good guy in a place where they literally cannot fight. It's not that hard if you think about it. And then you and the PC, you as the bad guy, and the PCs can have that buildup of information or threats or whatever without anyone worrying about, blood will make the grass grow, even in the Vatican. You get the stuff like that. You don't worry about stuff like that.
Well, and
like when
go ahead, Jeremy.
Deacon Frost, when he confronts Blade in the first movie and he's holding a girl hostage in public in broad daylight, right? That's a really great example of that. They're able to have this dialogue and whatnot. It did end in a little bit of violence, but Deacon was ready for it and he had his getaway plan.
Yeah, he was able to bounce real quick. Yeah, and get away.
He just
but
chucked
they got
the girl.
to have the exposition.
Especially in superhero games, it's so easy because there's so many. Nobody dies and stays dead. In the comic books, the Green Goblin has died I don't know how many times, and the Flash and Supergirl and Superman, for that matter. I mean, there's always ways to bring them back. Sometimes they're more plausible than others. You kill the big bad and it turns out, I was really an android, or I was really my clone.
Doombot. I hate Doombots.
And I'm back, and even when the guy dies, it doesn't have to be a moment. The group goes, yeah, this is great. And so when the big baddie shows up again, they're like, man, the things that are happening here, these crimes, they really feel like it's the modus operandi of bad guy X, but it can't be. He's dead, and no, you really killed his clone, or a guy who is surgically or magically made to look like him, or
a copycat.
A million different way, or he's the clone with all the memories, which is always horseshit. How do you make that happen? I mean, just because the guy is your physical duplicate, why would he have your memories? That never makes sense to me, but they do it all the freaking time in movies and science fiction novels and comic books for sure. And it's like, come on. But so there's a million magic, if you're in the DC universe, a Lazarus pit, there's all kinds of ways the guy can come back. So that's easy breezy.
Please keep telling me why I don't like superhero genre.
And in fantasy, again, it's easy because it could be, he made a pact with a demon, and this applies to comic books too, and he brought him back to life. Or, one of his agents stole the body and took him to, like I had the Defilers had a couple different ways they could get brought back to life. If one of them died, as long as they preserved the body, the Joker was one way he could bring him back. Of course, it would cost somebody's soul. And that would lead to some other adventure to win back that soul, that kind of thing. And then I had the maiden of the pond, which was some goddess who, she'd be happy to resurrect people.
The dollar store version of the Lady of the Lake.
Not really, but and she but you had to always do a quest, and you had to do the quest first before she resurrected them. Once in a while, if she's a super good character who was totally trustworthy, principled good, if he gave his word of absolute honor that he would make sure that they did the quest, sometimes she would resurrect them first, but they would also be required to go on that quest. And the rest of the group would be like, okay, our buddies are in trouble, so let's go. We want to bring them back, so we'll grudgingly help in some cases, or happily help in other cases. So there's lots of ways you can bring stuff back. And in the case of like Jack Ork and Zale that I mentioned, it was funny because these guys were like bumbling bad guys, and it really just seemed like the fate of the dice. They would have these, I'd cook up these elaborate plans, and I would roll like shit when the Defilers went up against them, and they would crush them like that. And then they just kept coming back, but they would do horrible things in between. And one is like they made a deal with some god or the Joker or somebody, and he got brought back because the Joker was anarchist, and he was mostly after souls. So it's like, the guy's a bad guy, but his buddy's willing to gamble his soul. Okay, sure. And another time they made a deal with some demon, and he brought him back, and the Defilers would kick their ass every time. But these villains were just so sort of horrendous. Like you were asking, how do you make a PC? This character that people just really can relate to or love to hate, and Zale and Jack Ork were two examples of that. And Jack Ork had been one of them. The group was stupid. I mean, I give them all these hints that this guy is basically, might as well be Jack the Ripper, right? Hence his name, Jack. And, does horrible things and murderous things and torture. And they let him into the group before. And of course, surprise, surprise. And they were surprised. He betrays them and kills a couple of them. And they're like, what? And I'm like, it's Jack the Ripper, man. What do you think? This guy's psychotic.
But we were getting along so well.
That's the whole Scorpion and the Frog story.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Anytime a group tries to adopt a goblin or a kobold in my game, I make them regret it that way. Like the moment they're asleep.
Oh yeah, because they're monsters.
Yeah, they're monsters. Right. You can't have a pet monster. You can't have a monster friend. This is why the coalition is right. DBs can't be your friends. They are monsters. Anything not human is a monster and needs to be cleansed. God, how hard is that?
There you go. I think we should leave it at that.
Well, I have some starred comments here. Something. Let's see here. The Triumvirate Dragon Kevin and I created in Riffer number 73 is creature GMs can build multiple adventures upon because of what it can do as NPCs. Now, I haven't read number 73. We're on what?
21.
21.
I just said 21.
So, yeah, so we're not
it's gonna
there
be
yet.
A couple of years.
Don't ruin it.
I said we've got content for at least 4 or 5 years with all these rifters. So
exactly. Then he comes back and says an NPC ruler can be scrupulous, but have an agenda that requires making choices that the party might be opposed to. Rulers have real trouble when they get up into principled and scrupulous because they have to make decisions for the empire that can be considered gross. But there's also decisions that on the ground can seem gross, but at the top level decision, this has to happen. And it's fine because it's the best possible course of action. You on the ground, you're not going to see that. You're not going to have that information. So you're going to think it's weird. That's a good way to bring up that dichotomy between what's going on and information you don't have. And then we got did I do this already? Poly Robotics give 20 more bucks. Jeremy, next time cover an overview of your book. Kevin, keep it on. We did that already. I'm sorry.
I think you reposted. Yeah, that was a new one.
He posted it again.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That Thank you for
He's
posting it again.
obsessed that I am apparently making a book. So.
Yes.
He does the
apparently
same.
you're
He does the
making a
same
book.
thing to me too. When you guys aren't here, he's like, "Hey, so when's your book coming out?" And I'm
When's
like,
your book coming out? And Joe O says, "Thanks for all your team's imagination at Palladium. All your work has been life-changing for many people. Wishing you many more years ahead. Best regards." And this is an octopus, red octopus waving. I guess it didn't transfer.
"Well, it is.
to
It's
the
if
actual
I've
emoji.
got it on the screen over there, but it's an octopus waving."
Okay. And then
Thank
we
you
have
very much.
Yep, you're welcome. And we have Eric Smith. I had a main villain that cast a spell that made everyone around him look like him before he escaped. The heroes attacked each other for a bit, not knowing that the bad guy was long gone.
That's
which is
awesome.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's a really good way to get the bad guys and good guys having it face to face without someone having to die.
Yep.
Punisher is right.
That's what I got.
The Punisher.
All right. Well, like I said, we only got through one segment today, but you know what's awesome about that is I don't have to find a topic for next time unless there's something really interesting going on.
Nice.
So, well, no, I mean, we always find something neat to talk about. So if something else supersedes this, but if not, we've got more on the whole NPCs. What did we get? Well, the idea of like a distant, like the distant emperor, the Emperor Prosek is just an example. How much influence he has over the setting. How do you handle that without the characters actually ever meeting him? Things like that. So we got a lot more that we can talk about. Also, how do you handle the I forget how the saying goes, the something baker and candlestick maker. How do you deal with those little NPCs, if you want to call it that? Make them interesting. So many more things that we can go into, but that we'll have to save that for another time or forget about it as we get more interesting topics. We do have a giveaway to do today, though.
We hit enough money.
We hit enough money, so I think it's time we murder some folks off. Kevin and Jeremy, hopefully you guys are willing to stick around for this. It only takes a couple of minutes, and then I think we're done for today. I really enjoyed this. I'm not gonna lie, I really want to keep asking questions and diving down this more, but I think there's a perfect stopping point. So let me share my screen here and get this on. Share screen. Window and Ultimate Arena. Okay, I've just checked the list. Well, he was going through the chat and so forth. I checked the list. If you've super chatted, if you've Rumble ranted, and or if you are a member or a Rumble, subscriber over on Rumble, you are in the list. So we're just going to jump in here. We're going to add all the people. I did take out a son. Yep. Do that. And the giveaway today is $50. Because we didn't actually have one last week. And a few people might drown there. Should we just let them drown, Heathen Dog?
Let them drown.
All right, we're going to
learn
let
how to
Heathen
swim.
Dog says you get to drown. So I guess we are ready to go. And good luck to everybody. Remember, you have to be watching in order to win, else it's going to be $75 next week. Where's the begin game button? There it is. There you go. Good luck to all the folks out there. 53 fighters enter the arena. Thank you, everybody who is a member and who super chatted. And let's turn other updates out. Wow, that's the first time I don't think I got spammed immediately with 9,000. Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Drowning right away. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Well, there's a few people in the water, so I bet you a couple people drowned.
They are actively drowning.
Grizzly Beard. Oh, well, can't read it yet. It's going too fast. Palladium 1 Gaming challenges Mar Hawkman to a duel of wits. Mar Hawkman shows up unarmed.
Oh, burn.
Walter MC gives Polyrobotics Big Bird SARS 19.
Oh, Jesus, that's horrible.
Brief. Rigged.
Gun to the Mat agrees hit points are a metaphor. The crafting gamer makes his death literal.
Oh, God.
Dirty Ogre yells, "Believe it!" and uppercuts Flady one out of cannon. What is that about?
Naruto.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's an anime thing.
Like, I don't get the reference. So, Bob Vecna, y'all are murdering each other so fast today. I can't keep up this. Eric power punches Nerdy Ogre into Phase World.
Well, he's out of the arena.
Victor Courtship shoves Thruxus into a plot hole of a bad movie. Malachi kicks Patrick into a pool of lava. See, the floor is lava. They told you.
Yeah, should have listened.
Squirrel Hermit executes Malachi for unauthorized use of PPE in a coalition safe zone.
He had it coming.
Of course he did. Game with ADHD was implants a xenomorph embryo into Kevin Sullivan. Minutes later, Kevin Sullivan dies screaming as it claws through his chest.
That's horrible, man. That's just mean.
Hey,
That's
you know,
just mean.
Burke tried. We all like him, right?
God.
He'll kill Squirrel Hermit with a chopstick to the eye. See, nice and simple.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a pencil, but it'll do.
Sorry, Squirrel Hermit, if you're still watching. Nutty Squirrel. Oh, okay, never mind. John
knows what he did.
He knows what he did.
Jeff Workman tells CBK to make a new character.
Okay. That's pretty lame, but all right.
He has to make a new character. The crafting gamer forgets to salute Emperor Prosek. Nutty Squirrel reminds him with a railgun. How many Palladium ones do we have in here? Another Believe It one. We had 53 entries. I have like almost 200 different
ways to die.
Yeah, ways to die. And we already had 2 Believe It's in here. Did you stop jumping? Jeff Workman puts on a magical girl armor. Eric dies of confusion and glitter-related trauma.
Hey, Jeff Workman.
Jeff Workman, I have never seen you in chat, but maybe you're a lurker. Maybe you're just a guy that keeps to himself. You've got a couple of minutes here, not a long time. You got a couple of minutes here. If you are watching, and I don't mean after the fact, I mean while we are alive, please let us know. Else it's $75 next week.
For you.
Quickly save this. Control to save the log. And our date today is what? 13 July. So just so forks, yeah. So just so you forks know, folks know, you farging ice holes. I can't talk. Just so everybody knows, we are not doing this next month in August. Kevin and Sean and Jeremy have like 9,000 conventions that they've got going on. They've got TMNT stuff that they're working on. All types of craziness going on in the background. So we are not doing this again with them next month. Made me want to keep them here for another 2 hours. But look at that. I'm being a good guy. But we hope to be back in September. But let's be honest, September is when Turtles should possibly be ready to go. So we'll see about September as well. We hope to do it, but I'm not again gonna duct tape anybody to a chair this time. If we do, we've got the topic of NPCs again. If not, we'll come up with something even better. Whatever Kevin, Jeremy, or Sean want to talk about, or whatever you guys come up with on the Discord. Discord's been dead the last week. Honestly, just like not much going on. So. We'll come up with something though. So I definitely look forward to that. My point is put some ideas out there that you want us to talk about. Gaming related ideas, not product promotion ideas. They'll come here and promote their products as they need to and as they see fit. They know they have an open door for that. Talk about product promotion. Got to show Kevin how well the book came out the shirt came out since he allowed me to do this. And your little blurb is the gray on the bottom. This came out crazy bright. Love it.
That's fantastic.
You can get this. Let me get this in front of the microphone. You can get this off of our Redbubble store. Look at that. Nice bright blue, nice bright yellow. Giga damage when mega just isn't enough. And the little gray blurb underneath that. So check that out on our Redbubble store. I was really happy with this shirt and how it came out.
Yeah, it turned out nice.
Oh, it's great.
So, all right. Any last words, Jeremy? Any last words you want to let the fine folks out there know? Is the website working now?
The website should be working a lot better now. As you all go to check.
I'm checking right now. I'm still getting spinning wheels, but I read what you posted, so hopefully that nonsense gets resolved. So,
we're still working on that. So,
okay.
And then
Sounds
the big
good.
Rift sale. There's only like 10 days left, I think it is. So it ends on the 23rd. So order those in. We were shocked. I mean, people have been ordering like crazy. We've had a few like, let me buy all 80 books plus a few extra things. It's like, holy crap!
Wow.
So that's nice. Keep them coming, folks. And
remember, Rift's Coalition Manhunters is now a collector's item.
It is, and I think it's I think it's sold out, or is it Black Market that's sold out? No, it's
Black Market sold
Manhunters.
out.
I think both actually
Uh-oh.
are.
Okay.
That current edition is sold out. So
Everybody go start shrink wrapping your current Riffs Coalition Manhunters book. Keep them in good condition. Actually, no, you all go ruin yours. I want mine to be worth money.
there you go.
Nice.
And then, for those of you who are going to be at Gen Con, come on down, visit the booth, chat with us. Jeremy will be there. Sean will be there.
Oh, you brought him back for that.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
And it should be lots of fun. Various other people are going to be there. Glenn Evans and various other folks. And then, we're just trying to keep the wheels on the bus and everything moving. So far, so good.
That song stays in my head all day. I'm gonna sing it to you, send it to you in an email at like 3 a.m.
Oh, sorry.
Heathen Dog, any actually hold on, let me do this right here. Let me put up our little banner here. Heathen Dog's always got words of wisdom for everybody. There we go.
All right. We talked a lot about NPCs today, how game masters can use them in their setting to either push their players in the direction that the game masters want them to go, or to give the players more information so they can make an informed decision about what they want to do if your game is more sandboxy. But what we didn't talk about is the other side of that coin, how the players interact with NPCs from the player's perspective. This is important. You as players have some control about how these NPCs, give you information about the world. If you're a dick to the barmaid, that's a resource that is gone forever. If you kill someone right away without interrogating them because they did something horrendous, that is a resource of information that is gone forever. So how you interact with NPCs will be the initial impetus on how the game master uses NPCs. So if you abuse NPCs all the time, do not get all whiny when NPCs have no information. They're not going to tell you anyway, because you're a butthead. So don't be a butthead to the NPCs. They can help you as much as you can help them.
Words of wisdom for the week. Don't be a butthead.